Trinidad and Tobago. Good morning to the public. Good morning to those listening live on Facebook. Good morning to members of the M.S.J who are monitoring and taking in this press conference. Today, well, first of all, let me introduce, I have two activists here with me this morning. Of course, to my right is Giselle Nicholas, a member of the Victoria area of the M.S.J, and Kwame Hercules, similarly. Right, so I am Gregory Fernandez, the chairperson of the Movement for Social Justice, and this morning we are here for an important exercise in the democracy of the party. So we are here to talk about M.S.J's internal elections for a new executive. Right, so M.S.J is a very democratic organization. It is not just the executive, but it is a party that has also a general council, better known as an activist council, right? And district organizations and members. So in accordance with our constitution, the question of the term of office of the national executive, it has to be renewed every 3 years. The executive was last elected in 2017, and because the general elections of 2020 and then the arrival of COVID, the Activist Council decided that the elections of national executive should be deferred until 2021. In lieu of the party congress in 2020, we had a national assembly in December last year. This was done virtually and had as its theme the M.S.J real, relevant, and reinvigorated. At its meeting of February 28, the Activist Council decided the following. Nomination day for all positions on the national executive will be on Friday, March 26th. Nominations will be open from 9 a.m. to 12 noon and from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. at the party's headquarters at 11 Lord Street in San Fernando. Right, so that we have nominations for all executive positions next Friday, all day from 9, we break for lunch, and then we come back in the afternoon. It was also decided that election day will be Sunday, April 11th. Sunday, April 11th. The election committee to supervise the process is Mr. Gregory Machan. This is Ms. Sati Gajada Innes and Ms. Cassandra Tommy. All three are members of the M.S.J and are very experienced trade union officials who are familiar with elections in democratic organizations. So those are the persons who are the key members of the elections committee and will supervise the process between now for the nominations and the elections itself on April 11th. Previous to this, the Activist Council decided that the National Congress of the M.S.J will be held on Sunday, April 18th at the Palms Club San Fernando, starting at 2 p.m. So this is 1 week after the election of the executive, so that the executive, of course, can be sworn in. The Congress will be a hybrid event. Some delegates will attend physically with all the health protocols observed, and others will participate virtually via an online platform. We will share the details of the agenda with the media prior to the Congress. The reason why the elections and Congress dates are so close together is that the party's constitution specifies that the Congress must ratify the results of the elections. This means that the new national executive will assume office at the Congress after the election has been ratified by the members of the party. The positions that will be up for nomination and election are as follows. 1, the chairperson, that's my position. 2, the deputy chairperson. 3, the political leader. 4, the deputy political leader. 5, general secretary. 6, assistant general secretary. 7, treasurer. 8, party organizer. 10, elections officer. 11, public relations officer. 12, education officer. 13, social services officer. And 14, international relations officer. The chairperson of the Youth for Social Justice, who is chosen by the Youth for Social Justice, is a full member of the National Executive. So essentially, the National Executive has 15 officers, and 14 are up for election at this time to serve in those positions for another 3 years. A significant number of new persons are expected to be nominated on Friday to serve on the National Executive as the party engages in the process of reinvigorating itself, as it continues to offer the country the only real alternative to the backward and divisive politics of the PNM and the UNC. So this is a major event in the democracy of the party that is scheduled to bring new faces, new invigorated response of the M.S.J. to the ongoing crisis in Trinidad and Tobago. So, do you all have any questions on this matter at this time?
You talked about new faces in their party. Would that be, would there be a new face in the leadership, political leadership of the party? Because I know prior to, I think after the last election, David had expressed, yes.
Yeah. Okay, well, remember at that time what had happened was that the executive did not accept his resignation.
Yeah.
Because we felt that he was the best person to continue to lead the party, and that he has so much to offer to lead Trinidad and Tobago. Right? So at this point in time, we have to wait and see if he is nominated on the 26th, next week Friday. Right? So I cannot say at this time. We have to wait and see if he is nominated, because that's nomination day. For me to say that at this time would be sort of preempting.
If he David, you not answer. We'd like to know if he has indicated whether or not he will offer himself.
Oh, yeah, well, I suppose once he's approached, then he would indicate that. As at this point, I am not aware.
In terms of so the M.S.J, you said you're trying to reinvigorate and grow and whatever. In the history of the M.S.J, you all have not contested Tobago seat. Is that, would that be a factor? You'd be considering that factor in the, as you go forward, maybe after this election?
But it depends on the,
well?
okay, M.S.J has a political position on Tobago, and M.S.J is deeply concerned about what is happening in Tobago. But the party will make, those decisions at the appropriate time, whether it sees itself directly intervening in the politics of Tobago. Right? At this time, our focus is Trinidad and Tobago, but actively in terms of the politics where we have representation, it will be Trinidad. Right? When we formed the new executive and they decided to chart a new path forward, that question of Tobago will definitely come up, and that the new executive will take a position on how the party treats the Tobago going forward.
And in terms of, I know every party needs finance to try to way forward. So what is, in terms of your party, what about your financiers? Are you able to continue to become a national party, in terms of your financiers? And I mean,
yes, it's a real question.
Yeah.
And the M.S.J has been seriously looking at that issue, and have been coming up with some strategies to attempt to deal with it. Right? So it's an ongoing process. There has been some progress, and we feel that in this upcoming period, we're going to be redoubling our efforts in that direction. Right? However, we will not, even in terms of having people to assist with the financing of the party, we have principles about that financing that will not be violated. Right? But we are open to funding. We are not against persons assisting the party, but the party has some principles that any persons willing to assist the party must adhere to. Right? So that's what it is right now. But we are working on it. I just wanted to say that if there are no other questions around the elections issue, we wanted to comment on the vaccine issue, right? We felt, given what has happened in the last few days, the last weeks and so on, concerning Trinidad's access to vaccines, we felt that the Prime Minister and the Cabinet have not done a good job at trying to put Trinidad in a position where the vaccine situation for the country was addressed. Because from early on in the pandemic, we heard that the big countries were trying to buy up all the vaccines. When President Trump was there, he spent billions financing a lot of the companies who were producing the vaccines. And I think, in world politics, some of the institutions of the globe, like the WHO and so on, as we know, many of them are ignored by the rich and powerful countries, and that they put themselves first. And as the carry come, I think more effort, particularly with Trinidad's leadership. I know Dr. Rawi has recently assumed, but Trinidad is one of the more influential members of CARICOM, that more should have been done, noting that it is not a charitable way, right? That more should have been done to secure the position of the CARICOM countries in respect of access to vaccines. So we see it as, not enough forethought was put into accessing the vaccines, and now we are way behind. And of course, the implications for the opening of our economy and so on, given the suffering that is currently taking place. So, in one sense, the government was beating its chest early on about its handling of the pandemic and didn't keep their eye on the ball, so to speak, and in respect of the vaccines. Right? Now, this has led to an unfortunate situation with a diplomatic incident, right? And we feel that all of this is now happening because of a desperate attempt to get vaccine stocks at this time. And it's going to continue to prove a challenge because, as we are seeing, there is a third wave in Europe. There is a second wave in India. So even India, they hold off on some of its generosity and its service to other third world countries, which leaves us in a difficult position. And I noticed in today's paper that the Prime Minister had reached out to the Biden administration, right? And one of the papers, in commenting on it, I'm not too sure about the veracity of that statement, but that they said that Rowley had promoted a position of the Caribbean being the Caribbean and the Caribbean Sea being an extension of America from the south coast of America, which has other political implications. So I'm hopeful that in the desperation to address the vaccine, that the government remains careful in its political position with the big powers, right, in terms of negotiating access. And we don't want to compromise our Trinidad position, which has been with us since independence, right, of non-alignment and non-interference of big powers in our region, right? Because what we're hearing now is about vaccine diplomacy and all the implications of that. And to me, it's because, we were not really looking at our rear that we are now in this position. So we feel that the government has more or less botched the whole question of access to vaccines, and they need to be careful in their approach going forward. If you have any questions on that?
It's straightforward.
Okay, that's good. So that's it for this morning. All right. And I want to thank you all for coming out. And we look forward to seeing what happens next Friday, the nomination of the individuals who will be offering themselves to serve on the M.S.J. executive for the next 3 years. And so thank you very much.
The election process will be this year as well?
Elections is April 11th.
No, here as well?
The venue.
The elections?
The venue, yeah.
The venue.
The elections committee will have to decide if they have more than one venue.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Even though members are spread in different areas, but the election committee will decide.
Thank you very much.